Hiroshi Matsuyama said what? Matsuyama-san, nani kore? Huh? Not me trying to speak Japanese at the start of the video. As you may have read by the title or seen by the thumbnail, Hiroshi Matsuyama, the president of CC2, the big man himself. I'm also friends with him on Pokemon TCG Pocket, by the way. So you know, me and him go way back.
Stop the cap.
He actually announced very recently in response to a community member of Storm about the potential of future DLC. A page named Naruto Storm Community posted saying, I think we should get together to demand official communication from Hiroshi CC2, that is Hiroshi's main Twitter account, about whether the game will end or not. It's disrespectful to us to keep us hoping in the dark. Mortal Kombat 1 is an example of a serious company that doesn't want to see players creating false hopes. So he did point, case, and explanation right there, and the big man Hiroshi Matsuyama himself comes back with, unfortunately, I cannot promise anything at this stage, but at the very least, CyberConnect 2 and I have no intention of letting this project end like this. You have no choice but to believe us. Now, this is a very strong tweet from Hiroshi-san, because he's being realistic in terms of the, unfortunately, we can't promise anything. Like, you gotta understand. Actually, no, you know what? I'll get into the nitty-gritties as to why they're not prioritizing things at the moment. But we're gonna analyze the tweet because, we want to know what is he saying exactly, right? But obviously he says that at the very least CyberConnect 2 and I have no intention of letting it end like this. So the fact he uses wording like letting it end like this, now obviously this is translated by Google. I'm not sure how accurate the translation is. So if anybody knows Japanese very well and can read kanji, hiragana, katakana extremely well, please go ahead and confirm if this is a great translation or not. But from what he's generally saying, is saying that CC2 and them have no actual intention of wanting the Storm game or Storm Connections to stop where it currently is at. They've done the first season pass, they've released the first set of characters. This sounds like to me that they have a potential few other characters that they'd like to release. I've said this in probably so many videos ever since Storm 4 when I used to talk about potential DLC characters in the past. I've listed them to you guys hundreds of times. I sound like a broken record, but they have so many potentials of all the characters that they could be releasing to the game. Obviously, Connections has the very exclusive Nanashi and Mers. They could always throw us those characters as a treat. They can always be throwing in characters like Anko, Shizune, do I need to name more? This is just me reminding Matsuyama-san and, all the homies at CC2 the potential, just a gentle reminder of the characters we could be receiving in Connections. If they wanted to give us the characters. I know they gotta go through like a bunch of steps to get the characters in, and they need like permission from the actual studio who animates Naruto themselves, and there's like a whole process that goes in behind actually adding DLC characters into the game. It's like a whole thing. Matsuyama-san actually talked about it in a tweet a long time ago. So you're probably wondering to yourself, so why is it taking him this long to say something, and why hasn't he released anything sooner? Well, this is my answer to that. CC2 as a company right now are incredibly very busy. They have their own games like the Fuga line that they put a lot of effort into, and then not only that, but they're working on Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 2. Not only that, but Matsuyama-san himself is always incredibly busy. I mean, when I'm following him on Twitter, I'm seeing that he's always going out on business trips, he's always flying to different cities or even different countries, and he's always attending seminars, giving presentations to young Japanese students who have interest in game design. So Matsuyama-san himself is very, very busy. The guys at the office, they're working on the upcoming Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 2. I don't know how far they are away with Hinokami Chronicles 2 in terms of the game being fully finished or not. I have no idea. But even if they are fully finished with the game, they would be wanting to work on DLC, because the common trend is with games these days is that we release the game and then we add DLC after. A lot of games seem to be following suit, even the really trash games like Jujutsu Kaisen and Curse Clash. And then this is just talking about CC2. We're not even scratching the surface with Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco being Storm's publishers, in case you've forgotten. Bandai usually is the ones dishing out the deadlines and dishing out the assignments for CC2 to work on once all parties are in agreement. So, if everybody on their end is wanting to make these DLC characters and they're all like, right, yes, Connections is going to get a Season 2 DLC pass, we're going to release 5 more characters over this span of a year or a few months or however long it takes them. Bandai is going to be working very closely with them, setting them deadlines and doing all the usual works. So I think a lot goes into like when DLC characters are being like storyboarded and made and everything, because not only do the animation studio it's got to be behind it, you know, I think Masashi Kishimoto's got behind it, and then CC2 and everything, and then Bandai, you know, there's a lot of parties that are involved in terms of getting content in a video game published and out there and, you know, completely legal to use. That's just my very basic understanding to the whole thing anyway, from what I've learned in the past. Obviously, CC2 currently has ties with Sega, another publisher for Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 2. And I'm sure right now, as we speak, they're working very closely with Sega to make sure that Demon Slayer is getting released as smoothly as possible, because let's be real, anime games this year or in the past few years have been really bad. Anime games recently, when they've been releasing, you've either released with, you know, not all the modes there or fully intact and working, and then they've released like extensions to modes or modes later. There's the whole balancing issue. I think a lot of these developers forget that the anime, like 3D anime gaming community, a lot of it has a lot of like try-hard, sweaty players that want to make tournaments out of these games. So then people are hopping on to like Sparking Zero, Connections, trying to make tournaments out of it, Jujutsu Kaisen trying to make tournaments out of it, seeing the very obvious imbalance because these games were never made to be competitive anyway, and then it causes a massive uproar. So there's a bunch of reasons as to why these games don't work, and I'm sure right now, if CC2 and Sega have a lot of time on their hands and in the budget, they might be trying their best to maybe balance the characters in Demon Slayer to the best of their ability to avoid any backlash or complaints. But going back to Storm Connections, I see this as a very good message from Matsuyama-san, and I am very, very grateful that he decided to even acknowledge it, because Naruto Storm community is correct. We've been in the dark for an incredibly long time now. My final words is actually echoing what Matsuyama says, is that we just need to have our faith in CC2 and just believe them when they say that they have no intention, but let's also be realistic on the projects that they currently got going on right now, and maybe just give them the time and space that they need. Obviously for Storm, this means that we will be getting more balance patches, because with character releases, they usually do balance patches, and with the help of my platform, I can always do my best to help make sure that characters are getting buffed and nerfed where they're needed. But I mean, let's be real, we've mainly been focusing on nerfs more than buffs. Except that few times where I managed to get Ino buffed and get poisoned in her jutsu. Thank you for that again, Matsuyama-san. Anyways, I'm gonna leave for more food for thought for you guys. Let me know in the comment sections how you feel about the current update from the president of CC2 himself. For myself, I'm quite excited, but I also like to remain realistic about what they can and cannot achieve at this current time with everything that they have going on. And then Bandai is obviously another factor as well in terms of how they're willing to cooperate with CC2 on this. Anyways, it's been your boy Poison Akami. Jane.